Exactly a week ago, people in Soweto and Pietermaritzburg visited their local taverns for an evening out. Just hours later, at least 20 of them were dead and others wounded. Gunmen entered 2 taverns and randomly opened fire on patrons. Police Minister Bheki Cele says at least 130 bullet casings were found in the Soweto tavern. Let's discuss guns and gun policy in South Africa. Adele Kirsten from Gun Free South Africa joins me now. Adele, thank you so much for your time this evening. So we've seen a spate of shootings at taverns, in townships, 7 people shot dead on a farm this week in the Free State. Do you think easy access to guns is partly to blame?
Good evening, Anli, and hello to your viewers. Certainly, it's the single most reason why we're seeing this kind of gun violence in South Africa. Gun Free South Africa has noticed in the last 18 months that there's a changing pattern to our gun violence. One is we're seeing many more, an increase in these kinds of multiple shootings where there are more than one shooter killing over 5 people or more. We're also seeing that people who are shot in kind of regular crime, not this kind of organized crime situation, that there are multiple shots shot at one individual. And then the other worrying trend, which the tavern shootings would be part of, is these kinds of killings are happening in much more public spaces rather than in kind of gang-related territory or in home invasions or business robberies. And it would seem that certainly in terms of organized crime, that what that means is that there's a flood of weapons moving into our society, whether it's through the legal market, or moving from the legal market into the illicit market. So yes, the availability of firearms, the easy access to guns is one of the biggest contributing factors to the kinds of gun violence we're seeing in the country at the moment.
Are there ways to know how many illegal firearms are out there?
An important question, but one that's difficult to answer, except that you always have to start with your legal stocks. So any gun legislation is aimed at controlling your legal stocks, whether the weapons are in the hands of civilians, private security, or in the hands of the state. And because the legal market is the biggest source of illegal guns, you have to go to kind of the base. It's the basic principle of any good gun law is you have to control your legal stocks. And if you know that, you then have some idea of what weapons are moving out. So once a weapon leaves the legal market, you have no control over it. It's gone out of the kind of legal circulation, as it were. But we know that over 20 guns are lost and stolen every single day from civilians and 2 to 3 from cops. So that gives you some idea of what's out there in circulation. But you remember that the same weapon is often used multiple times to kill people. So currently, we have over 5, well, in fact, just under 5 million licensed guns in South Africa, of which almost 3 million are in the hands of 1.8 million licensed gun owners. So that gives you some idea then about what we could be anticipating of possibly something like close on 1.5 million in illegal circulation.
High levels of serious crimes are committed daily across South Africa. So many people would say that warrants all police officers carrying guns, regardless of their rank and their department or the duty that they serve. But looking at the many police weapons that are used in the commissioning of crimes, once they're stolen, one quickly reevaluates that statement. What would you say?
Look, we need a holistic approach to this, and we need to be looking at the evidence. Where are the guns coming from? So despite these mass shootings where we've seen high caliber weapons, that's organized crime. The majority, over 80% of our gun-related crime, it's handguns. It's the guns that are bought for self-defense for civilians. So that's where we have to look at that pool of weapons. That's where the control needs to be asserted. From the state side, the state has to make absolutely sure that its weapons and ammunition management system is intact, that it's effective, so that the state is responsible for holding its own stocks, and that includes the guns on the hips of its officers. So we have to take a systemic approach to weapons and ammunition management control, and we have to go back to the law and look and say, what is happening in our current act? It is insufficient to reduce access and to reduce circulation. It needs to be strengthened. And that's exactly what the current amendment bill is. So you need to be doing both. And then I guess finally, and we would, Gunfree, suggest that we would much rather see something like a specialized firearms unit, which is tasked with the recovery of weapons used in crime. It's absolutely critical to recover and remove weapons that are used in crime, to take them off the streets, to take them out of circulation, and as importantly, to ensure that they're destroyed. This is a central responsibility of our police service.
And of course, along with any kind of legislation, there needs to be adequate enforcement of that legislation. Thank you so much for your insights. That was Adele Kirsten from Gun Free South Africa.